They said the same thing in every corner of the ancient city. Never cross the true alpha mother. The woman in the royal blue gown wasn't just powerful, she was a living legend. Sharp-tongued, unyielding, feared by warlords and nobles alike. If you offended her, you offended the entire warrior lineage under her son's command. But on one blood-stained afternoon, the true alpha mother crossed paths with someone nobody expected, a waitress in a torn apron, hair tied with frayed cloth, carrying a wooden tray of scraps from the tavern. And that's the girl who saved her life. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video, hit subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. Now, let's get started. The ancient marketplace was chaos, as always, vendors shouting, dust swirling, the clash of merchants and beggars. The true alpha mother's gilded palanquin moved through the crowd like a ship through waves, carried by 6 men in ceremonial armor. She was returning from the ancestral temple where she honored her late husband every month. Her guards walked ahead, clearing the path. For just a heartbeat, she was exposed. And that's when it happened. A runaway cart, heavy, laden with stone, came careening down the hill. Oxen bellowed, wheels screeching against cobblestone. The driver screamed warnings. People scattered like birds. But the true alpha mother didn't see it in time. The cart was barreling straight toward her open palanquin. And then a blur, a shout, hands grabbing silk. They both crashed onto the dusty street. Pain shot through the mother's shoulder. A wooden tray clattered across the pavement, bowls rolling everywhere, soup spilling like rivers. The true alpha mother gasped, trembling. What happened? Maya, 23 years old, tavern waitress, hair messy from steam and heat, breathed out shakily. My lady, are you hurt? Her apron was ripped at the seam. Her knee was bleeding. Her heart hammered so violently she thought it might burst from her chest. But she had saved her. The cart smashed into the empty palanquin. Wood splintered.
Silktore.
The decorated frame collapsed like paper. People screamed. The true alpha mother's eyes went wide. That impact would have crushed her instantly. Her voice trembled with shock. You pulled me from death. Maya nodded, still catching her breath. I saw it coming. You didn't turn. I just moved.
No calculation.
No thought of status or consequence. Just instinct and courage. The true alpha mother stared at her savior, her chest tight with disbelief. This girl, this stranger, this servant, had thrown herself into danger to save an elder she didn't even know. Horns blared. Armored boots thundered against stone. Soldiers rushed in, weapons drawn, securing the scene. And through the chaos, a warhorse charged to a halt, hooves striking sparks from the cobblestone. The man who dismounted made half the street fall silent. Aiden Park, the true alpha, commander of legions. Tall, broad-shouldered, eyes like tempered steel, the kind of man people feared even in moments of peace. He strode to his mother, barely controlled panic cracking through his usual iron composure. He knelt beside her, hands hovering. Are you injured? What happened? She pointed at Maya with a trembling finger. She saved me. He turned, and for just a moment, just one breath, his brutal, war-hardened world stopped. Maya stood there, clutching her bleeding knee, hair falling loose from its tie, apron dusty and stained with soup. A nobody, a tavern girl who had just stumbled into a realm of power by pure accident. You? His voice was low, incredulous. She blinked up at him.
Me. Yes.
His gaze dropped to her torn clothes, the blood on her knee, the scrapes on her palms. His jaw clenched. You're hurt.
I'm fine.
You're bleeding. It's nothing.
People were staring now.
Whispering. The true alpha speaking gently to a waitress?
Impossible.
But Aiden didn't notice. He crouched down, reaching for her wrist as if she were something fragile and rare. He examined the cuts on her hands. Get her to the physician, he ordered one of his officers.
Now.
Maya pulled her hand back. No, I'm fine. Really? I need to get back to the tavern. My shift. A shift? He stared at her like she'd said she needed to fly to the moon. You just saved my mother's life. You're not going back to any tavern. Maya tried to laugh nervously. My lord, someone still has to serve the tables. The true alpha mother let out a breathless, disbelieving laugh. Aiden, she whispered to her son, voice thick with emotion. She reminds me of someone. He frowned. Who? His mother didn't answer. She was looking at Maya with a softness that hadn't graced her features in years. Medics were clearing the wreckage. Soldiers formed a perimeter. Curious onlookers pressed close, but palace guards kept them at bay. The true alpha mother wasn't watching any of it. She was focused entirely on Maya, on her scraped hands, her trembling fingers, her kind, terrified eyes. Child, she said gently, what is your name? Maya. Are you always this reckless? Maya flushed. I just didn't want you to get hurt. That car was moving too fast. The mother nodded slowly. So you threw yourself toward death for a stranger? You weren't a stranger, Maya said softly. Just someone's mother. Aiden inhaled sharply. Something turned over inside him. Something he didn't have a name for yet. The true alpha mother reached out and placed a weathered hand against Maya's dusty cheek. My son is fortunate, she murmured. Very fortunate indeed. Fortunate. Maya frowned, confused. Why? And then, right there in the broken marketplace, with smoke rising from the shattered palanquin and half the city watching, the true alpha mother spoke the words that would shatter Maya's world forever. Because from this day forward, you are my daughter-in-law. The crowd gasped. Soldiers froze mid-step. Aiden choked on air. Maya's soul left her body. What? The true alpha mother took Maya's dirt-stained hands in her own silk-clad ones. You saved my life. That makes you family. Fate has chosen you. I accept you. Aiden stared at his mother, stunned beyond words. You cannot just. Quiet. Her tone was steel. This is. I said quiet. She turned back to Maya, her expression serene, satisfied, as if she'd just solved the realm's greatest problem. This is the girl. I feel it. I know it. Everyone stood frozen, while the true alpha mother nodded with absolute certainty. Maya's voice shook. My lady, I didn't save you to be claimed as a bride. I saved you because it was right. The mother touched her cheek again, and her eyes, those legendary, fearsome eyes, softened in a way her son had never witnessed. Child, you have done more for me in one moment than people who call themselves loyal have done in decades. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I thought my life was ending today, but perhaps it was just beginning. Aiden pulled his mother aside, voice urgent and low. You cannot force this on someone. I am not forcing, she hissed back. I am declaring. There is a difference. She doesn't even know us. I know enough. The mother's gaze was sharp, cutting. I saw the way you looked at her. I did not. Do not lie to your mother. He closed his mouth, because she was right. When he'd first seen Maya standing there, brave, confused, gentle-hearted, something had cracked open in him. A fissure. A thaw. Something he didn't want to acknowledge. Something he had no idea how to handle. But his mother saw everything. Every unspoken tremor. She is the one, the true alpha mother whispered. The one who will bring warmth back to this warrior bloodline. Aiden's chest constricted. He didn't believe in fate or destiny. But the way Maya had looked at him, fearless despite her terror, soft despite the violence around her, that stirred something in him he had no words for yet. Maya tried to edge away quietly, but the mother caught her wrist. "You're coming with us." "My lady, I truly must return to the tavern."
No.
"You're family now." "I'm not. We're not." The true alpha mother smiled. "Not yet." Maya nearly fainted. Aiden pinched the bridge of his nose. "You're frightening her. Then comfort her." He blinked. He wasn't accustomed to comforting anyone. But he walked to Maya, and when he spoke, his voice was lower, softer, gentler than he'd ever used with anyone outside his bloodline. "You don't have to come with us," he said carefully. "My mother acts swiftly." Maya let out a shaky laugh. "That's one way to say it." But then he added, quieter still, "I would like to thank you properly. At least allow us to tend her injuries." She hesitated. His eyes weren't cold now. Not the eyes of a warlord. Just human. And for reasons she couldn't explain, she trusted that look. Maya nodded slowly. "All right, but only for the injuries." The true alpha mother's smile widened knowingly. "We shall see." Aiden groaned inwardly. Fate had arrived wearing a tavern apron and bleeding knees, and the warrior world had no idea what storm was about to crash through its ancient gates. Maya had never been inside a palanquin this luxurious. The silk cushions were embroidered with phoenixes. The air smelled of sandalwood. The curtains blocked out the dust and chaos of the streets. And across from her sat the true alpha mother, studying her like she was the most precious artifact ever discovered. The palace compound rose ahead like a fortress carved from stone and ambition. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs as the palanquin passed through gates guarded by soldiers whose armor gleamed sharper than any weapon she'd ever seen. She didn't belong here. Every fiber of her being screamed that truth. Aiden dismounted his warhorse in one fluid motion, his boots hitting the courtyard stone with authority that made servants scatter. He turned back to the palanquin, his face unreadable behind that warrior's mask he wore so well. His mother emerged first, still shaken but steady, and then Maya, who stumbled on the step because her hands were trembling too badly to grip the frame. He caught her before she fell. His gauntlet hands were surprisingly gentle around her waist, steadying her like she was made of glass instead of common clay. "Careful," he said, and released her the moment her feet found solid ground. Maya stepped back, suddenly aware of how small she was next to him. The warrior armor made him seem carved from iron and shadow. His eyes swept over her torn apron, her bleeding knee, the bruises already darkening on her arms. His jaw tightened. "You're injured worse than you admitted." "It's nothing." "It's not nothing." His voice cut through hers, not cruel but absolute. "You threw yourself at a runaway cart. You could have been killed." "But I wasn't." "But you could have been." Something flickered in his eyes, something that looked almost like fear, though Maya couldn't imagine this man fearing anything. "And now you're a target." She blinked. A target? That card didn't lose control by accident. Aiden glanced at his mother, who nodded grimly. That was an assassination attempt. Planned. Calculated. And now every enemy of this house knows your face. The words hit Maya like a second collision. Her knees went weak. Aiden's hand shot out again, catching her elbow. "You're coming inside." "Now." "My lord, I need to go back." "You need to understand something." He leaned closer, and his voice dropped to something quieter, but infinitely more dangerous. "My mother has declared you family. That makes you mine to protect. And I do not lose what's mine." The possessiveness in those words should have terrified her. Instead, something warm and confusing bloomed in her chest. "I didn't ask for this," Maya whispered. "I know." For just a heartbeat, his expression softened. But fate rarely asks permission. The true alpha mother placed a hand on Maya's shoulder. "Child, my son is right. You saved me, and in doing so, you painted a target on your back. Those who wish us harm will see you as a weakness to exploit. The only safe place for you now is here, under our protection." "I don't understand any of this," Maya said, voice breaking. "You will." Aiden's tone was gentler now, though still edged with command. "But first, we tend your wounds. Then we talk." He didn't wait for her agreement. He simply turned and walked toward the palace entrance, clearly expecting her to follow. His mother linked her arm through Maya's, guiding her forward with surprising strength for someone who nearly died an hour ago. "He's always like this," the mother whispered with a small smile. "Orders first, explanations later. But he means well." Maya looked up at the towering palace doors, at the guards who bowed as Aiden passed, at the world of silk and steel she was being pulled into against every instinct she possessed. She had saved a life, and in return, her own had been claimed by forces she couldn't begin to comprehend. The doors closed behind her with a sound like thunder, sealing her fate. The palace interior stole Maya's breath. Silk banners hung from vaulted ceilings painted with dragons and phoenixes. Lanterns cast golden light across polished marble floors that reflected like still water. Servants in pristine robes moved silently through corridors wider than her entire tavern. Everything gleamed with a wealth Maya couldn't even calculate. She felt the dirt under her fingernails like shame. Aiden led them to a private chamber, where sunlight poured through latticed windows. He gestured to a cushioned seat.
"Seat."
Maya obeyed, because her legs were shaking too badly to argue. He knelt before her with the efficiency of a soldier preparing for battle, pulling a wooden case from a nearby shelf. Inside, clean cloth, medicinal herbs, small glass bottles that caught the light. He removed his gauntlets, revealing scarred hands that had clearly seen years of combat. "Your knee first," he said without looking at her face. Maya's breath hitched as he carefully rolled up the torn fabric of her skirt, just enough to expose the bleeding wound. His touch was clinical, impersonal, like she was a broken weapon that needed repair. He cleaned the scrape with a dampened cloth, his movements precise and practiced. "This will sting," he warned, applying a salve that smelled of bitter herbs. It burned. Maya bit her lip to keep from making a sound. "You should have cried out on the street," he said quietly, wrapping clean linen around her knee. "When you pulled my mother from danger." Most people would have screamed. There wasn't time to scream. His hands paused for just a heartbeat. Then he continued wrapping, tying off the bandage with expert knots. He moved to her palms next, cleaning the scrapes with the same focused detachment. But Maya noticed the way his jaw stayed tight, the way his shoulders held tension like drawn bowstrings. This wasn't indifference. This was control. The true alpha mother settled into a chair nearby, watching her son work with knowing eyes. When he finished, she reached over and took Maya's bandaged hand in both of hers. "You are brave, child," she said warmly. "Foolishly, wonderfully brave." Maya's throat tightened. "I'm not brave.
"I'm terrified."
Good." The mother squeezed her hand. "Fear keeps us alive. It's what you do with the fear that matters." Her gaze softened with something Maya recognized, the look her own mother used to give her before she died. "You are welcome here. You are wanted here. Never doubt that." Tears pricked Maya's eyes. Aiden stood abruptly, his shadow falling across them both. She needs to understand the danger. His mother's expression shifted to something harder. "Then tell her." He turned to Maya, and this time he looked directly at her. Really looked like he was assessing whether she could handle what came next. "The cart that nearly killed my mother wasn't an accident," he said flatly. "It was orchestrated by Commander Zhao, a rival warlord who's been trying to destabilize our house for years. He wants our territory, our resources, our power. And he'll use any weakness to take it." Maya's stomach dropped. "But I'm not. You are now." Aiden's voice was cold iron. He has informants everywhere. By sunset, every enemy of this family will know that a commoner girl saved the true alpha mother's life. That my mother claimed you as my future bride in front of half the city. He leaned down, bracing his hands on the arms of her chair, his face inches from hers. You became the weakest point in our armor the moment you pulled her from that street. And Zhao will exploit that. Then send me away, Maya whispered.
No.
I'll leave the city. I'll disappear. You'll die. His eyes burned with something fierce and unyielding. They'll hunt you, torture you for information, use you to send a message. His voice dropped lower, almost gentle despite the brutal words. The only place you survive is here. Under my protection. Do you understand? Maya understood. She was trapped by her own kindness, by fate's cruel twist, by forces so far beyond her she might as well be drowning in an ocean. The true alpha mother stood and kissed Maya's forehead like a benediction. Welcome to the family, daughter. We keep what's ours. And Maya realized she'd been claimed by wolves who wore silk and called it love. 3 days passed like a dream Maya couldn't wake from. She wasn't allowed beyond the palace walls. Guards stood outside her chamber door. For her protection, they said, though it felt like captivity wrapped in courtesy. The room they'd given her was larger than the entire tavern kitchen, filled with furniture so delicate she was afraid to touch it. Servants brought her meals on lacquered trays, clothing made from fabrics she'd only ever seen on nobles, tea that smelled like flowers she couldn't name. She was a prisoner in paradise. Aiden found her on the 4th morning, standing at the window that overlooked the training grounds where soldiers sparred in formation. He didn't knock. He simply entered, his presence filling the room like a storm front. You haven't touched the breakfast, he observed. I'm not hungry. You need to eat. Maya turned to face him. What I need is to leave. His expression didn't change. That's not possible. You're using me. The words came out sharper than she intended. You said it yourself, I'm a weakness. But you're keeping me here anyway. Why? Something flickered across his face. Because you're also a shield. A shield? Commander Zhao believes you matter to us now. That belief keeps him focused on you instead of other vulnerabilities. As long as you're here, visible, under our protection, you draw his attention like bait draws wolves. He stepped closer. It's strategic. Maya's chest tightened with anger and hurt. So, I'm just a tool. You're unnecessary, he stopped himself, jaw clenching. Yes. For now. At least he was honest. That somehow made it worse. The door opened and a man in official robes strode in without invitation, older, with a thin beard and eyes like chips of ice. A minister or advisor, judging by the jade seal hanging from his belt. His gaze swept over Maya with open disdain. This is the girl? His tone dripped contempt. The commoner who's been given chambers in the family wing? Aiden's posture shifted subtly, shoulders squaring. Minister Chen, you were not summoned. I summon myself. Chen turned his cold assessment back to Maya. My lord, the council is questioning your judgment. This girl has no lineage, no education, no value beyond a single impulsive act. Elevating her to enough. The word cracked through the room like a whip. Aiden moved between Chen and Maya, his presence suddenly dominating every inch of space. When he spoke again, his voice was quiet, the kind of quiet that preceded violence. You will address her with respect, or you will not address her at all. Chen's eyes widened slightly. My lord, I only speak for the council's concern. The council's concern is noted and dismissed. Aiden's hand rested on the hilt of his sword, casual but unmistakable. My mother has claimed her. I have accepted that claim. Her status is untouchable. Anyone who challenges that challenges me directly. He leaned forward slightly. Do you wish to challenge me, Minister Chen? The older man's face paled. No, my lord. I merely. Then leave. Chun bowed stiffly and retreated, his robes swishing with barely concealed fury. The door closed. Silence settled like dust. Maya's hands were shaking. You didn't have to. I did. Aiden turned to her, and for the first time, she saw something raw in his eyes. You think you're just a tool. A shield. Maybe you are. But you're my shield now, and I protect what's mine. The possessiveness should have frightened her. Instead, it made her feel something she hadn't felt since her mother died, safe. The true alpha mother appeared in the doorway, as if summoned by the tension. She looked between her son and Maya, reading the moment with the precision of someone who'd survived decades of court intrigue. Minister Chen has always been ambitious, she said mildly, entering the room. He forgets that in our world, family is both treasure and target. She took Maya's trembling hands. You saved my life, child. That made you precious. But it also painted you in blood. In this house, we are all shields for each other. We are all targets. Her grip tightened. And we are all warriors, whether we carry swords or not. Maya looked between them, the warrior son and the steel-spined mother, and understood that she'd stumbled into a war that had been raging long before she was born. She was no longer just Maya the waitress. She was ammunition in a battle she didn't know how to fight. The attack came at midnight when the palace was draped in darkness and false security. Maya woke to the sound of shattering glass, and a hand clamped over her mouth. Her scream died in her throat as she stared up at a masked figure silhouetted against moonlight, blade gleaming in his free hand. Don't fight, he hissed. Commander Zhao sends his regards. Terror flooded her veins like ice water. She thrashed anyway, pure instinct overriding sense. Her elbow connected with something soft. The man grunted, his grip loosening for just a heartbeat. The door exploded inward. Aiden moved like controlled devastation, his sword already drawn, still in his armor from the night patrol. He crossed the room in 3 strides and drove his blade through the assassin's shoulder before the man could react. The attacker crumpled with a choked scream. 2 more masked figures poured through the shattered window. Aiden met them with a fury Maya had never witnessed, every movement precise, lethal, efficient. His armor sang with violence as he cut them down, not killing but incapacitating, each strike calculated to end the threat without mercy. The fight lasted seconds. It felt like hours. When silence fell, 3 attackers lay groaning on the floor, disarmed and bleeding. Palace guards flooded in, securing the wounded enemies, shouting orders. But Maya couldn't hear any of it over the roaring in her ears. She was shaking so badly her teeth chattered. Then Aiden was there, dropping his sword with a clatter, his gauntlet hands framing her face. His eyes were wild, not with battle rage, but something far more dangerous. Fear. Are you hurt? His voice cracked on the words.
Maya.
Look at me. Are you hurt? She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, could only stare at the blood splattered across his armor, blood that could have been hers. He pulled her against his chest, armor and all, one hand cradling the back of her head like she was something infinitely precious and breakable. His heart hammered against her ear, as frantic as her own. I almost lost you, he breathed into her hair. I almost. You didn't, she managed, voice muffled against cold metal. If I'd been 1 minute later. But you weren't. His arms tightened around her, and she felt him trembling. This warrior, who just cut down 3 attackers without breaking a sweat, was shaking like a leaf in a storm. You're essential to my survival, he said suddenly, the words tumbling out raw and unguarded. Do you understand? Not as a shield, not as strategy. He pulled back just enough to look at her, his eyes burning with something that stole her breath. I can't lose you. The true alpha mother appeared in the doorway, her own guards flanking her. But she stopped when she saw her son holding Maya like she was the only solid thing in a collapsing world. Aiden, she said softly. He didn't let go. Post guards at every entrance. Triple the patrols. I want eyes on this corridor every hour. Son, we have. I'm staying here. His tone left no room for argument. I'll guard her door myself. That's not necessary. It is to me. He finally released Maya, stepping back but keeping himself between her and the broken window. His jaw was set in that stubborn line Maya was beginning to recognize. I won't leave her unprotected. Not again. Not ever. The mother studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Understanding flickered across her face, the kind of understanding that came from watching her son finally crack open after years of living behind walls of duty and discipline. She withdrew quietly, taking the guards with her, leaving orders that no one was to disturb the true alpha unless the palace itself was burning. Aiden retrieved his sword and positioned himself against the wall beside Maya's door, still in full armor, weapon across his knees. He looked like a sentinel carved from stone and determination. You don't have to do this, Maya whispered from where she sat on the edge of her bed, still shaking. Yes, he said quietly, his eyes meeting hers in the lamplight.
Ido.
Because she wasn't just a shield anymore. She was the thing he couldn't bear to lose. And that terrified him more than any enemy ever could. Maya woke to voices drifting through the wall, low, tense, unmistakably Aiden's. She shouldn't eavesdrop. But something in his tone made her press her ear to the painted silk partitions separating her chamber from the council room. Commander Xiao has made his position clear. That was General Li, Aiden's second-in-command. He wants the girl delivered to him, or he'll march on the capital. This war is over a commoner, my lord. One life weighed against thousands. Then we go to war. Aiden's voice was steel-wrapped in finality. My lord, be reasonable. I am being reasonable. A pause, heavy with controlled fury. She is what's mine. Not a bargaining chip. Not a sacrifice.
Mine.
And I do not surrender what belongs to me. She's made you weak, Minister Chen's oily voice interjected. The council sees it. Your enemies see it. This obsession. Call it obsession again. The threat in Aiden's voice made Maya's breath catch. She is not weakness. She is the only thing keeping me from burning Zhao's fortress to ash and everyone inside it. She is restraint. She is reason. She is the strength that keeps me from becoming the monster this position demands. His voice dropped to something rawer. You think I'm weak? I'm holding back an entire war for her safety. That's not weakness. That's power you'll never understand. Silence fell like a blade. Maya's heart thundered so loudly, she was certain they could hear it through the wall. The council is dismissed, Aiden said flatly. And if anyone suggests trading her again, we'll have a very different conversation. Footsteps. The council members filing out, their murmurs fading down the corridor. Then quiet. Maya didn't think. She just moved, slipping through her door and into the council room before courage could abandon her. Aiden stood at the window, still in his armor, silhouetted against dawn light. He turned when he heard her enter, and something vulnerable flashed across his face before he could hide it. You heard, he said. Not a question. I heard. He looked away, jaw tight. I won't apologize for it. I'm not asking you to. Maya stepped closer, her bare feet silent on cold stone. But I need to know something. When you say I'm yours, what does that mean to you? His shoulders tensed. It means I protect you. That's duty. That's not. She swallowed hard. Is that all I am? An obligation you inherited when your mother claimed me?
No.
The word came out rough, almost desperate. He turned to face her fully, and the mask he wore so carefully was cracking, splintering. You're the first thing I think of when I wake. The last thing before sleep. Every decision I make is measured against whether it keeps you safe, whether it keeps you here, whether... He stopped, closing his eyes. I don't know how to do this. Do what? Want something for myself instead of for duty. His eyes opened and they burned. Want you not because my mother declared it, not because politics demand it, but because I can't imagine my life without you in it. He took a step toward her. So I'm asking, do you want to be mine? Not as some claimed bride. Not as a strategic asset. Just mine. The way I'm already yours. Maya's breath caught. Every rational thought told her to run, to protect herself, to refuse this dangerous, impossible man. But her heart, her foolish, courageous heart, had made its choice the moment he'd held her after the attack, shaking with the fear of losing her. Yes, she whispered. The word hung between them for a heartbeat. Then Aiden closed the distance and kissed her like she was air and he'd been drowning. His gauntlet hands cupped her face with a gentleness that contradicted every hard edge of his armor, and Maya rose on her toes to meet him, her fingers clutching the leather straps of his breastplate. The kiss was not gentle. It was confession and claim and promise all wrapped into one fierce, unbreakable vow. When they finally broke apart, foreheads pressed together, both breathing hard, Maya felt the world shift and settle into a new configuration. This is dangerous, she breathed against his lips. I know. Your enemies will use this against you. Let them try. She pulled back just enough to see his face. I'm not strong like you. You're stronger, he said with absolute certainty. You saved my mother knowing it could cost everything. You stood in this palace when anyone else would have fled. You faced assassins and didn't break. His thumb traced her cheek. You're the strongest person I know. And Maya, who'd always seen herself as small and powerless, believed him. The true alpha mother sat in the garden pavilion, surrounded by flowering trees that dropped petals like snow. She didn't look up when Maya approached, but her slight smile suggested she'd been expecting this visit. Sit, child, she said, gesturing to the cushion across from her. Maya settled herself, smoothing her borrowed silk robes, clothing she still wasn't comfortable wearing. The mother poured tea with practiced grace, the steam rising between them like a veil. You've made your choice, the mother said simply. Not a question. Never a question with this woman. I have, Maya answered, lifting her chin.
I'm staying.
Not because you declared it, not because Aiden needs a shield, but because I choose him. I choose this family. I choose this fight. The mother's eyes gleamed with something that might have been triumph or might have been relief. Even knowing it could cost you everything? Everything I had before was survival. Maya met her gaze steadily. This is living. Even if it's dangerous, even if it's terrifying, I'd rather stand beside him in the storm than hide somewhere safe and alone. You understand what you're accepting? The mother set down her tea. You will be targeted, used as leverage,
Threatened.
There will be days you'll resent my son for the cage this life becomes. Then I'll tell him. Maya's voice didn't waver. I won't be a silent, decorative bride. If I'm choosing this life, I'm choosing all of it, including the right to fight back, to speak my mind, to be his partner, not his possession. The true alpha mother studied her for a long moment, then did something Maya had never seen her do. She laughed, a genuine, delighted sound that seemed to shake years from her features. Oh, child. My son has no idea what he's claimed. She reached across and took Maya's hands. But I do. And you are exactly what this bloodline has needed for generations. Her grip tightened. We have been warriors for so long we forgot how to be human. You will remind us. You already have. Tears pricked Maya's eyes. I'm not special. I'm just You are brave enough to be gentle in a world that punishes gentleness. Strong enough to be kind when kindness is seen as weakness. Wise enough to choose love when power would be easier. The mother's voice softened. That is rarer than any warrior's skill. That is what makes you worthy of my son, and what makes him worthy of you. She released Maya's hands and reached into her robes, withdrawing something that caught the sunlight like captured fire. A bracelet, ancient and exquisite, made of jade and gold worked into the shape of interlocking phoenixes. The craftsmanship spoke of centuries, of hands long turned to dust, of legacy. This belonged to my husband's mother and her mother before her, back 17 generations to the founding of our house. The true Alpha Mother held it reverently. It is passed only to those who are chosen by blood or by bond. Those who prove themselves not through battle, but through sacrifice and loyalty. She fastened the bracelet around Maya's wrist. The weight of it was substantial, grounding, like an anchor tying her to something far larger than herself. You saved my life, the mother continued, her voice thick with emotion. But more than that, you saved my son from a lifetime of loneliness his duty would have demanded. You gave him permission to want something beyond war and strategy. She cupped Maya's face with both hands. You are my daughter now, not by decree, not by circumstance, by my choice and yours. Maya's tears finally spilled over. I don't know how to be what you need me to be. You already are. The mother kissed her forehead with a tenderness that reminded Maya of her own mother, lost so many years ago. Welcome home, daughter of my heart. Welcome to the lineage. Welcome to the family. The bracelet gleamed on Maya's wrist like a brand and a blessing both. She was no longer Maya the waitress. She was no longer Maya the outsider. She was Maya of the true Alpha bloodline, and she had been claimed by choice, courage, and love. The city noticed the change before anyone spoke of it. The true Alpha, who'd once ruled with an iron fist wrapped in protocol and military precision, began negotiating where he'd previously demanded. Aiden met with rival houses not to threaten, but to find common ground. Trade routes reopened. Border disputes were settled through dialogue rather than steel. Commander Zhao, sensing the shift and finding no weakness to exploit, eventually withdrew his forces and sued for a tentative peace. The council whispered that Maya had made him soft. His mother knew better. Maya had made him whole. A year passed like a held breath finally released. Maya learned the rhythms of palace life, though she never fully shed her commoner's directness or her habit of speaking truth to power. She attended council meetings at Aiden's side, not as decoration but as counsel. Her perspective on the common people's needs became invaluable to a warrior who'd spent his life viewing the world from horseback. And Aiden, who'd once seen emotions as fatal flaws, learned that loving someone didn't weaken him. It gave him something worth building peace for. On the anniversary of the day Maya saved his mother's life, Aiden found her in the same garden pavilion where she'd received her blessing. She stood among the flowering trees, the ancestral bracelet gleaming on her wrist, looking exactly as she had that first day, except now she wore silk instead of a torn apron, and confidence instead of fear. Maya, he said, and she turned, smiling in that way that still made his chest tighten. You're supposed to be in the strategy meeting. I told them I had more important matters to attend. He walked to her, and she noticed he wasn't wearing his armor. Just simple robes, his sword left behind in his chambers. He looked younger without the weight of metal and duty. Aiden, what? He dropped to one knee. Maya's breath caught. What are you doing? Something I should have done months ago. He reached into his robes and withdrew a ring, simple gold, unadorned, not the ornate jewelry of nobles, but something honest and real. When my mother claimed you, I accepted it as duty. When I protected you, I called it strategy. But I've been a coward, hiding behind armor and obligation instead of saying what I should have said from the beginning. His voice was steady, but his hands trembled slightly as he held up the ring. I love you. Not because fate threw you into my path, not because you saved my mother, but because you saw the man beneath the warrior and chose him anyway. You taught me that peace is stronger than conquest, that gentleness requires more courage than any battle. He swallowed hard. Maya, I'm not asking as the true alpha. I'm asking as Aiden, just a man who cannot imagine his future without you. Will you marry me? Maya dropped to her knees in front of him, ignoring protocol, ignoring propriety. She framed his face with her hands and looked into eyes that had once been cold as winter and now burned with warmth. Yes, she whispered, on one condition. Anything. No more hiding. No more pretending you don't feel things to protect yourself. If I'm your partner, I get all of you. The strength and the fear, the victories and the doubts. Complete honesty. Always. He smiled, and it transformed his entire face. That's the easiest vow I've ever made. He slipped the ring onto her finger, and she kissed him there among the falling petals, sealing a promise that had begun with an act of courage and bloomed into something neither of them had known they needed. They married a month later in a ceremony that united two worlds, the ancient warrior traditions and the simple, heartfelt vows of common folk. Maya wore silk embroidered with phoenixes, the ancestral bracelet on her wrist, and her hair pinned with jade. Aiden stood in his formal armor, but his eyes were soft, fixed on her like she was the only person in existence. When they spoke their vows, the true alpha mother wept openly, and no one dared comment on it. The city celebrated for 3 days. The palace that had once been a fortress became a home. And two people who'd been thrown together by fate chose each other again and again, every day, building a future neither could have imagined. Maya never forgot she'd been a waitress. Aiden never forgot she'd saved more than his mother's life. Together, they ruled with the strength of warriors and the heart of the people, and the legacy they built outlasted empires. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and drop a comment. Your support means everything.